Hey guys, so just following on from my last video where I put some thread locker, Loctite thread locker on the nut here on both sides of the Gotway to secure the nut from turning at all while riding. I said what I'd also do for extra security is I'd add some flywheel keys, which are those little metal sort of lugs that you get to go on either side here. They have them on the 9-bot. They don't have them on the Gotway, so I bought a couple of those, or bought 4 of them actually for each side, so 2 for here and 2 for the other side. I'm going to put those in, but I just wanted to show you, let me just turn the camera around, that when I did the work last time, the thing I wasn't able to finish before finishing the video was to re-silicone these things up. So all this looked like white silicone over here, and I've taken all that silicone off in order to take the cables out. And I've just re-siliconed it all up. So I just wanted to show you what that looked like at the end of it. But now today's job is to put the keys, the flywheel keys, either side here. So I'm going to show you how I do that. So what I'll do is I'll mount the camera up over here and show you how I get on. Right guys, so here's the bolt on the motherboard side. It's the one I'm going to do first. Doesn't really matter which. Here are the two. See, they're here. These are the two keys I'm going to use. Now the ones I got, I'll post a link below where I got them. But there's several options, and they're called flywheel keys, so you can do your own Google search for them. These particular ones are thinner on that side, here, thinner there, and they're thicker there. So I'm going to put the thicker side down like that, so the thicker side, because the gap in here, the thin side will just drop in, the thick side will then wedge in. And what you want is you want these to wedge in. You don't want them to just drop in because they'll fall out. You need to really physically put a bit of effort into getting these into the slot here. So what I'm going to do is I don't know if you can see, I'm going to put one on this side. Actually, I'm probably going to do it here, one on this side, and then one on the opposite side over here. Obviously, it has to be on the opposite side. Don't put them next to each other, because it won't do anything. So one here, one on the opposite side. In terms of the tools, what I've always used is just a relatively large flathead screwdriver, because it fits nicely and covers a reasonable amount of the surface of this, so you're not digging into this too much when you bang it in. And if you've got one, use a rubber mallet. Don't, if you can avoid it, use a metal hammer like this, because what happens is it creates a lot of shock going through the screwdriver here through the screwdriver into the nut and then down into the motor. So you want to try and avoid that. If a metal hammer like this is all you've got, then I suggest wrap it up in a tea towel or something soft and then bang onto the screwdriver with that, so you just dull that sheerness a little bit. Anyway, that's my advice. So let's continue. So I'm going to put one key up here. Now this is going to be a little bit trial and error, so bear with me. One of the tricks to doing this, what I should say is that you don't need to take the plastic shell off. There's plenty of space in here that you can just put the key in. The plastic shell, the edge of the ring here on the plastic shell sits flush with the ring on the aluminium strut that sits underneath, so you don't need to take the shell off. Just be really careful, because you've got all this sensitive stuff around here, wires and electronics. So if you don't feel comfortable with that, take the shell off. I'm not going to, my risk, but just be careful. Obviously be careful that when you're banging it, the screwdriver doesn't slip and go into the motherboard, because then it's a new motherboard. So, you know, use your common sense, and when you're banging it in, try and bang it in a direction away from the motherboard, you know, so that the worst that's going to happen is you're going to cut into the plastic or something like that. Bit of common sense. So I'm going to put the first key in there, ready to go. Actually, do you know what? So it's the first time I do this, so you're learning with me. I think the right thing to do should be, I'm sure you're all shouting at the screen now, why didn't you disconnect the battery? Disconnect the battery. So I'm going to disconnect the battery. There we go. There. So I'm just going to do that first, and then I'm going to put it in. Right, so here we go. Let's get that one in there. Right, the trick with putting these in, or it certainly was with the 9-bot, is I don't know if you can see if we can get you closer, but I've put it in at an angle. Okay, and the reason for that is that, let's get these cables out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, the reason for that is that it's better if you put it in at an angle and then push one end down first here, and then slowly work up to the other end. So push that end in first and then work your way up to get that end in. Doesn't always work first time. Sometimes it flips out and goes across the room, but it's really difficult if you put it flat to get the whole thing to go down at once. It's much easier to get one end to go down and then the other end, if you know what I mean. So this is going to be quite an easy one, this side by the looks of it. I need to push it that way a little bit. Okay. And what you want to do, I don't know if you can see, but the plastic shell is probably about, a millimetre depth between the plastic shell until it becomes the metal hole, which is part of the metal strut that connects the pedals. You really want to get that lug or that key down into the bit that's metal. Okay, interestingly, when I said that these had a thin side, so a thin side here, and then a fat side here, it's only by 1/4 millimetre. It's a really small difference. On some parts of this, if I go here, that will just drop in and it won't offer any kind of resistance. If I go to another part, up here maybe, certainly here, if I drop it on the thin side, then it's thick enough to squeeze in and offer sufficient resistance. So it's actually not a bad idea maybe to get ones where they're slightly thinner on one side and slightly thicker on the other, and it gives you the flexibility to choose where to put it. So on this side, for example, I think I'm going to need to put it in on the thicker side, whereas over here it's clearly wedged in there quite nice and tightly, but on the thinner side going down. Okay, let's try that. See here, it just slots in on the thin side. There's no resistance, so I'm going to have to I might have to make a bit of room here with the metal. The metal's protruding slightly. Sorry, the plastic. I mean, not metal. The plastic slightly protruding over the top of the metal hole, and so I just want to give it a bit more space. I'm just going to get something to get those little bits of rubbish out from there. Process the paste and everything. Right, okay. Let's put this one in. You see now, because I've taken a little bit of the plastic away, I can get that first bit of kind of capture there on the top. So I'm just going to push that bit down once, and then get that other bit in there. There we go, we've got some proper purchase now on either side, see? That's in there. Now all I've got to do is evenly, one side then the other side, push it down into the hole. There. So let me just take the camera off. Right. So there you can see. There's one lug, or one key, and there's the other key. And this is obviously after I put in the Loctite thread locker. So nice and secure now. It's a little bit messy, but it was on the 9bot 2. That whole area there with the metal, round piece within the leg strut. You know, if you'd taken this off a couple of times, it would get really hammered and messy and pulled apart. So this is actually in reasonably good condition compared to what my 9bot used to look like there. So anyway, that's me done. I hope that helped. And happy riding. Cheers, bye guys.